Welcome to another live session of the Menopause Method.
I'm Dr. David Rosensweet.
And I am Joshua Rosensweet. And today we're going to talk about a topic that I think most people don't understand. I sure didn't, and that's this, that a woman goes into menopause, the symptoms get really, really rough, she gets on hormones to get her through that rough spot, and a couple years later, really as soon as possible, she stops. She gets herself back off those hormones because that's the right thing to do.
Yeah. Is it the right thing to do? No. And that particular practice is universally popular in the United States and probably around the world. And yet it was triggered by some research that turned out to have a lot of faults in it. And then let's look at it from another angle, because my answer is no. As a woman or man, major hormones decline, they're going to continue declining. They're not, only under very rare circumstances are they going to recover. You're past your 30s, those hormones decline, and they keep on declining. And by the time someone's in their 90s, how do I know this? I've seen the test results over and over again.
Yeah.
They got very close to zero hormones, and these things are so powerful.
Even much lower than they were when a woman was right in the peak of menopause.
Exactly. So the questioner was saying, she went into menopause, let's say 50 or 45. They were still some substantial hormones, not enough to menstruate, but there were still some hormones there. Yeah, by the time she's 90, and why do you see the elderly women and elderly men with canes, walkers, wheelchairs, and what you often don't see, but they have them, is Depends, those adult diapers. And by the time that starts to happening, they get separated from their family. This is the biggest blow to them of all. They move out of the home, out of the family dynamics, and into the assisted living facilities or nursing homes.
It's sort of hard to feel that far into our futures.
Not for me. Because I'm a doctor and I've seen people of all ages. And I'm treating people of all ages. And after a while you get it. You know that famous cartoon where someone's standing upright and then they get 10 years older and they're starting to, and then they get 10 and they got the cane as you go through the decades? Well, as a physician, always being in general medicine, I've seen this, and I really listen to, and work with the problems of the ultra-elderly. And you think you got issues, you want to talk to those folks. But the main thing I want to say again is the biologic thing that actually is occurring for most humans, more or less, is these hormones start declining in your mid-20s. You don't notice it until your 30s or 40s. And they continue to decline, and that's not good. And you could say, well, that's natural. And I can say, only to a certain extent. And the thing is, so much of that decline is due to overworking of the biology of the stress response. You get stressed, you pour out adrenaline. Most people know that. You pour out cortisol. Most people know that. What they don't realize is they start pouring out estrogen, testosterone, DHEA, thyroid. And you keep doing that day after day because you're in perpetual or repetitive fight or flight, and you start, the glands can't keep up with it, and you get hormonal decline. In medicine, you won't be able to find a doctor that once that doctor identifies too low thyroid hormone, that they're going to say, well, we only want to treat you for 3 years or 5 years, but we sure want to stop. No.
You only need your thyroid a couple more years, right?
You go into an assisted living facility, a nursing home, and people were put on thyroid in their 40s and 50s. They're still getting prescribed thyroid for the whole rest of their lives. And the same is true as ovarian hormones. But a big, wild scare came into the American medical profession and all the women in America, and thus all over the world. There was a study done, we've reviewed it many times, and the cat got out of the bag that they were declaring that there was a risk for breast cancer. And it scared the American public and the American medical profession so greatly that they changed their ways, because they used to give Premarin by mouth for women when they went into menopause. It was one of the most popular pharmaceuticals on the planet Earth until the 2002 study that showed what? That women shouldn't use Premarin, horse urine-derived estrogens, No. Women who were treated with horse urine-derived estrogens had less of an incidence of breast cancer than women who were untreated. But that got lost.
And
that
you can see how it can get lost, because what is scarier than cancer?
Yeah.
And what is
But the
scarier
incidence
of
was
the cancers than breast cancer?
Exactly.
It's so personal on so many
But
levels.
what got lost is there was 2 arms of that study.
Yeah.
One of the arms of the study, women were given Premarin alone. That's horse urine-derived estrogens.
Yeah.
I can slow that down, but we've said a lot about this. And the other arm of the study was the combination of Premarin with this funky molecule, this mega-altered molecule that's no longer progesterone, it's a progestin called medroxyprogesterone acetate. And it was this arm of the study that had a small but statistically significant increase in breast cancer and coronary artery disease. So they stopped the whole study, and years later they started seeing the faults in the study, and study after study came out and said, well, look at the mistake we made here, and look at the mistake we made
It's
here.
only the progestin. We're not putting women on progestin anymore. They shouldn't be
Well, you know what?
afraid
There's
of it.
still women being treated with Provera.
Interesting.
I know. It's staggering to me that it hasn't been ripped out of the market, because that was the problem thing.
Yeah.
It was called Prempro. Women are still treated with Premarin because, you know, they have less of an incidence of breast cancer than women who are untreated. But that scare got out so fast they couldn't get the cat back in the bag, and there's been many, many studies that have shown the many faults of that study.
This woman was actually raising the thing because she lost the ability to sleep again, right?
Yeah.
And I'm only bringing it up because she kind of lucked into, that's a funny way of putting it, but the symptoms got so severe she was willing to reopen up a door against the advice of the experts in her life and say, there's got to be some way to help me.
And there's several aspects of that.
Yeah.
Number one, the knowledge base around treating women in menopause with hormones has gotten so huge that, like, for example, if someone had an acute appendicitis, they could come to me. I could pull off an appendectomy. But I'd be the last doctor in the world. You want to go to a doctor that has had specific surgical residency and has done 100 of them, if not 1,000 of them.
And 3 that week.
Exactly. They're the ones you want to see.
Yeah.
And menopause was never considered much of a specialty. In fact, the visits took 10 minutes. Oh, I'm having hot flashes. Here's the Premarin. That takes 10 minutes. We don't have to test you because we can't test you. And what my point is this, that you really want to be seeing someone who has taken the time to do the extra education and to work with menopausal women all the time. And what do they know? They know, number one, to treat women with hormones puts them at less of a risk than to not treat them at all. Oh, that's huge. To treat them with bioidentical hormones properly puts them at less of a risk. This is medical studies. I'm not just thinking this out loud. Than women who go untreated for a lot of different things.
Yeah.
For brain, for Alzheimer's prevention, for artery stuff, for bladder, for vagina, for bones. This is a big deal. Our body loves these hormones.
We've done a lot of these now. We've sat in these chairs a lot of times, and I feel some repeating themes.
Yeah.
And I, on one hand, we don't want to be repetitive and boring, but I got to say that you and I started in on this project together more than 10 years ago. And even as your son, and even with the degree of trust I have always had for you as a medical doctor, the rubber hit the road for me when I thought of my wife getting on hormones.
Yeah.
And those fears had worked them way into my psyche. Me, your son. So they're
worth
deep.
examining.
Yeah. And
you're playing with powerful chemicals. You're playing with powerful natural hormones. These things are powerful.
Yeah.
So you want to get it right, and it's not that hard to get it right if you take the time and energy and education and get the experience and get the mentoring like you would the only way I would get great at an appendectomy, which would be fun, is I would do a lot of studying, and I'd get in a surgical residency, and I would go through that operation with mentors time after time after time, and then someday the mentor would say to me, the chief surgeon would say, okay, I want you to do the next one. I'll be standing by your side to make sure you do it right.
Yeah.
And they would not let that happen until that surgeon felt safe enough to let me at it, and then they'd be right there to grab my hand if they didn't see or say something out loud. And the same thing is true in menopause, is to get this one right. And I want to say it again. I recommend that a woman and a man, when their hormones start declining, that they start to take hormones and just get it right. And we go way out of our way, as you know so well, to define what's getting it right, including the testing. And the other thing is, excuse me, having a drop there.
Well, I've sure got one.
Yeah.
You mentioned that model.
And to take them for the rest of their life. And of course, we've also, I've told you the story, and we have videos of me treating women in their late 80s and late 90s, couldn't get out of a chair, fell, fractured a shoulder because their muscles got so weak they weren't stable on their feet. And then we have an after video of the woman getting up from a soft couch with her hands, my mother-in-law, getting up out of a soft couch with her hands up in the air with this huge smile on her face, showing that she could get out of a low couch without using her hands, which she could never do before that. I mean, there's a lot of reasons to take these hormones.
Yeah.
And boy, you get it right, and we'll change the nature of these family breakups that are taking place and these elderly people who have become so dependent that they got to have skilled nursing care. I have nothing against the skilled nursing care. Bless their hearts. It's some of the most devoted, hard work that's taking place on this planet. And I love those people, and I've had a lot of, I've loved those workers. But, you know, let's get them into another branch of medicine called prevention. It'd be easier on them. And give the older folks what they really want is they want to stay part of life.
Here's the part I wanted to add.
Hormones are that powerful. Hormones are that crucial to that. Sorry.
No problem. The part I wanted to add is what you just laid out for how you would become good at doing an appendectomy is really the basic model for how we built this company.
Yeah.
I don't know if viewers know this, but we started as our core mission to train doctors. To give a little history here, why we became involved in Partners is Dr. Rosensweet, Dad, had been on the lecture circuit teaching doctors how to treat women in menopause.
And nurse practitioners.
And nurse practitioners at large conferences. And I went, this is great stuff. Let's build this business. And what is the basics of it? First of all, lots and lots of education. That's what it takes. You've got to study a lot. And then, my point is this, that whole mentoring thing that he said that would happen if he tried to become an appendectomy master, that's what we do with our doctors.
We mentor them case after case after case.
They get to run their cases, their tough cases, by Dr. Rosensweet, Dad, personally, I mean, it's a lot of time. It's a huge commitment. Often I'll hear doctors go, really, you're so generous with your time. Why do we do it? Yeah, it's important. There's no substitute for a great mentor when you're
in education.
Yeah.
And back to the basic premise is this woman stopped her hormones because she had gotten part of the public fear. And which part of the medical profession still has the public fear? The ones that were touched by the explosive knowledge.
Yeah.
And who isn't? The ones who have gone on to really, oh, look at that. Look what this study showed. Look what this study showed. Oh, my God, it was a mistake. Oh, my God, the fear was on. And not only that, we threw out the baby with the bathwater. Now, I'm not here to imply that none of us are at risk for small, medium, or large issues. I mean, I'm grateful that I'm walking and talking this afternoon because who knows about tomorrow. We're all at risk, but hormones, properly administered in the right doses, don't cause cancer. Now, in our book and in our teaching seminars, we show how hormones can play a role in these well-differentiated cancers, but they don't cause it. And if you're involved with someone who's an expert in this field, or as part of a program that they're getting expert in it, they're going to monitor you like wild and anything that goes untoward, because 10 to 15 years before women go into menopause is when those cancers start. It takes 10 to 15 years for those breast cancers, for example, to grow from a single cell. So the hormones didn't cause it. But if you're under careful care, you're getting an annual exam, and you'll get it detected. Yeah. And so I just want to say, I didn't want to imply that there is no risk, but properly treated with hormones, the risk isn't the hormones. The risks are all the things that amount to creating an aberrant cell, a genetic change that leads to a cancer, and we are at risk for those things. So we want to be cautious with a lot of things.
Yeah.
But sorry to go on so long there, but take them all your life. That's my best shot. And if anyone would like to challenge me on that, please challenge me on it.